and let us all do we can to build a better future. All right, folks. Biden. He's eating ice cream as Rome burns. That's right. As the whole republic is on its knees, as the economy is struggling, and as the Democrats are losing voters, the key word today is they're losing voters, Biden is eating ice cream, and here is his Marie Antoinette moment as he eats ice cream and talks about, or at least responds to a question about the genocide in Gaza.
Well, I hope by the beginning of the weekend, the end of the weekend. At least my national security advisor tells me that we're close. We're close. We're not done yet. And my hope is by next Monday, we'll have a ceasefire. Okay, thank you.
And there it is, his Marie Antoinette moment. So that's Biden. But also, folks, even though as the whole world is on fire, Biden's advanced age makes him successful. Top Democrat says, so this is other words from California Governor Gavin Newsom. California Governor Gavin Newsom has tried to bat down worries that U.S. President Joe Biden is too old to seek re-election by claiming that he is thriving because of his advanced age. I've seen him up close. I've seen him from afar. But here's my point. It's because of his age that he's been so successful. Newsom said on Sunday in an NBC News interview, it's because of the wisdom and the character that's developed over years. Biden, 81, is already the oldest president in U.S. history and would be 87 by the time he leaves the White House if he serves a full second term. Concerns about his cognitive sharpness were heightened earlier this month when a U.S. Department of Justice special prosecutor investigating the mishandling of classified documents by Biden reported that although he had found evidence of criminal conduct, a jury would be reluctant to convict the sitting president because he comes across as a well-meaning elderly man with bad memory. Goodness gracious. And of course, an ABC News poll released on February 11th shows that 86% of Americans believe Biden is too old to seek a second four-year term. Newsom, who has been accused of running a shadow presidential campaign in case Biden drops his 2024 re-election bid, told NBC that he was bored by such speculation. It's all idle chatter, said the 56-year-old governor. You know what? That's a sideshow. I think what Democrats need to do is worry less, do more, continue to overperform as we have, continue to win. What have you been winning? And make the case it's a damning conversation, frankly, the other side wants us to have. To which then we must pull this up here as well. The Hispanic Caucus has growing tension with Biden, but also want to pull up this other video here. Growing fears from the Democratic establishment in Michigan that Democrats may not vote for Biden in the primary, and the New York Times editorial board calls for a ceasefire now. What is going on? Let's first play this video.
Let's take a look at Michigan. Elected Democrats in Michigan are signaling they are unsure how President Biden will perform in the state's primary tomorrow, citing calls from the left for Democrats to vote uncommitted over his approach to the Israel-Hamas war. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a surrogate in Biden's re-election campaign, was asked about the possible divisions within the party in an interview yesterday.
How many uncommitted votes do you think we're going to see on Tuesday? How worried are you?
Well, I'm not sure what we're going to see on Tuesday, to tell you the truth. I can tell you this, that Michigan has been so fortunate to be the home of a robust Arab, Muslim, Palestinian community and a robust Jewish community. We've lived in harmony as neighbors for decades, and there's a lot of pain all across all of these communities because of what's happening halfway around the world. This is, I think, a very high stakes moment. I'm encouraging people to cast an affirmative vote for President Biden. I understand the pain that people are feeling, and I'll continue to work to build bridges with folks in all of these communities because they're all important to me, they're all important to Michigan, and I know they're all important to President Biden as well.
Sounds like you're preparing for a sizable portion of the vote being uncommitted and sending that protest message to President Biden.
You know, Dana, I'm just not sure what to expect.
So let's be clear, there was a similar protest effort with New Hampshire. You might recall there was a push there to write in ceasefire, and that went next to nowhere, Caddy. Didn't make a dent at all in Biden's victory. Michigan is a little different, though. We know there's a sizable Arab American population there. There's a sizable Muslim American population there. They're very angry. They're members of Congress who are part of this effort. So give us your read. How worried are Democrats as to what we might see there tomorrow night? It's just the primary, but it's also a state that Joe Biden basically needs to win come November.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got Rashida Tlaib saying vote uncommitted. You got Beto O'Rourke yesterday jumping in and saying, yes, vote uncommitted in order to put pressure on the Biden administration. It was interesting listening to Debbie Dingell on the Sunday shows yesterday, describing what people in her community are going through, the people who have relations in Gaza, who have lost grandparents, who have lost parents, who know of children who have lost their limbs. I mean, the situation is dire. People are grinding up animal feed in order to try and make flour to make food for themselves. They are drinking salt water. Debbie Dingell was saying she's hearing stories of drinking salt water in Gaza at the moment. It's not surprising that people are angry, particularly from the Arab American community. We're looking at younger voters, how they've been so angry about this on college campuses. They may drift back to the Biden administration. I think it's going to be hard for many Arab Americans to forget what happened in Gaza because they are so closely linked to it. And of course, with Michigan in play, Michigan with a large Arab American community, that does make the state it makes it more important for the Biden administration to have outreach. And Debbie Dingell was suggesting, the president needs to come up.
So let's talk about the outreach, all right? Because we could listen to Morning Blow until our brains fall out. But nonetheless, we are hearing this from the Democrats. And of course, corporate media is in pure panic mode, knowing the fact that there are voters that don't want to support Joe Biden, especially the Arab Muslim community in the state of Michigan, who have made their concerns extremely loud and vocal for the fact that, again, they have loved ones that are at risk of either dying or either that they know people that have died over there in Gaza. And unfortunately, this administration has done nothing to alleviate any of the pains or concerns that are happening there. But also, many voters, besides the genocide in Gaza, many voters are just upset at the overall economic situation here in America. So, JB, your thoughts on the people, especially voters, breaking away from the great Democratic coalition of 2020?
Yeah, so if you're afraid that they will vote uncommitted in Michigan, then maybe, just maybe, Biden needs to get on the telly and call up Netanyahu and say, hey, you want to do a ceasefire? Maybe that might be just the right thing to do there, old Joey. Because from what it looks like from here, you about to lose Michigan. Because look what's going on. And by the way, I do not blame any of those voters for voting uncommitted at all. In fact, and I will say this to Rashida Tlaib, if you really want to make an impact, if you really want to stick it to these genocide pushers, especially in the Democratic Party, leave the party. Walk away from the Democratic Party. Do it now before the Michigan primary and say, I'm now registering as independent. Do you know how many people would follow her? Because ultimately, Biden is, he's just doing what the Israel lobby wants him to do. He's a puppet. So, I mean, that's ultimately what I see it as. But as far as, their concerns, they're going to push Biden through whatever, because ultimately they really don't care. It's the facade of a democracy that they're trying to uphold so that people's eyes don't get open that wide.
True. And, what I have to say to all the progressives, especially those part of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, okay, Rashida Tlaib and including AOC and Ilhan Omar and Ayanna Pressley and everyone else that's part of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, including Senator Bernie Sanders. Look, it's abundantly clear that Biden is not at his game. He's not a top dog. He doesn't have that dog in him anymore. And when you have people like Gavin Newsom, of all people, who have such a horrible track record of running their state, especially running their state to the ground, it's clear to all of us, it's clear to me, that the Democrats are getting desperate, which again makes me wonder how the DNC convention will play out here in Chicago.
Hey,
Go
can
ahead.
I add something too?
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom said we need to continue to overperform. That is the biggest crock of bullshit I have heard in a long time. Overperform? That is quite the overstatement, Gavin. Because
go ahead.
look, I'm telling you, when it comes to performance in the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party needs a shit ton of Viagra because they are definitely not performing.
Oh, well, okay. Well, first of all, what wins do they have, by the way? Because I mean,
you tell me, because I don't know. I don't feel it. Look, my wallet's been laughing at me for the last 5 years. My wallet's been going ha 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 ha.
Yeah, what wins do we have? Plus, the way the entire administration has failed to follow through with all of its promises. By the way, when you have progressives like AOC or Bernie saying that Biden has been doing a good job or exceeding expectations, oh, he's been exceeding expectations, all right. No one expected him to fail this bad. His age is out there. Look, I covered on yesterday's show, and I couldn't show it on YouTube because obviously because YouTube would probably hit us with a copyright strike. But Italy recently, not once but twice, has now done 2 skits about Biden being a elderly, senile old man. Perception drives reality, and it's out there for everybody to see. Everybody knows about it. Everybody's talking about it. And another thing too, it's not only what's happening in Michigan, but also here. The Congressional Hispanic Caucus is having attention with the Biden White House due to the fact of what's happening with immigration.
President Biden's handling of the humanitarian crisis at the southern border has sparked some tension with some of his fellow Democrats. Punchbowl News reports the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is upset at the White House for excluding its members from border security talks on Capitol Hill. Now, as the Biden administration prepares to take executive action to deal with the crisis, that tension is growing. Caucus members are calling on the White House not to give in to hardline GOP demands on border security and immigration. Democratic Texas Congressman Greg Casar told Punchbowl, quote, "I don't think the Biden administration was going to get any credit for going Republican light on immigration. We're never going to be the halfway on the issue of immigration." Congressman Casar joins us this morning. Congressman, it's great to see you. I very much appreciate your time. NBC News has confirmed that President Biden is going to be traveling to Brownsville on Thursday to meet with Border Patrol agents, law enforcement, and others. He will also discuss the need to pass the bipartisan Senate border security agreement, which is pretty much dead at the House. What do you make of this decision to visit the border, and what do you want to see from him?
Jose, thanks so much for having me on. And I think it's really good for President Biden to be in Texas and be on the border because we have to tackle the issue of immigration head on. And as you just reported a little bit earlier, the case of San Diego and so many other places is exactly an example of how Republicans are the arsonists here, trying to make the immigration system as unruly and disorderly as they can so they can campaign on it. And then they want to try to blame Democrats, the firefighters, for the flames that those very Republican arsonists have set. And so I think it's important for the president to tackle this head on, but we should have a message about how immigration can be good for this country and is good for our economy and good for our culture, not that immigration is bad. And that's where I hope that more voices from the Congressional Hispanic Caucus can be heard, because we can handle immigration in a way that is safe, legal, orderly, and humane and beneficial for the country, not something we should be scared of.
What did you mean when you told Punchbowl News that we're never going to be halfway on the issue of immigration?
What I meant, and I don't know if the quote was exactly spot on from that news outlet, but at the end of the day, what I mean is that if the choices for voters is a anti-immigrant policy from the Republican Party and a somewhat anti-immigrant policy from Democrats, then people will just choose the real thing, the real anti-immigrant policy. And that is not good for the country. It doesn't actually solve the issue of immigration. Democrats should own immigration as a good thing, but something that we need to manage and something where we need to be able to integrate people in a legal and orderly fashion. And Republican policies that they're trying to push right now is to and legal pathways to migration. They want folks to have to come here undocumented. They want things to be disorderly, and we should call them out on that and actually own the issue of immigration.
And this is what happens when you decide to let fear get the better of you, especially when the 2020 election cycle was taking place, when you had people like the Vote Blue No Matter Who crowd saying, we got to support Biden because Trump is going to be bad on immigration. Trump's going to be bad on X, Y, and Z. Trump's going to be bad with all these social issues. And the thing is, you have to remember, those kids in cages, well, that happened under the Obama-Biden presidency. Trump found that when he got there. Now, Trump is the last person who I'd want in charge, of course, but all these foreign and domestic policies are still being implemented that was happening under Trump are still happening under Biden. And so the thing is, I don't know why a lot of people who voted for Biden, no matter where you are, I mean, I get it. I understand why people voted for Biden. I get that fear probably took the advantage of a lot of people's ability to think critically, but nothing fundamentally changed. And now what we see happening in these sanctuary cities is, especially here in Chicago, you know, it's building up resentment. It's building anger. The cities are struggling to take care of a lot of these migrants here. The Republican politicians and Democratic politicians are using migrants as pawns. They're using the American people as pawns, and nothing's getting better. Why? Because it's designed that way so these politicians can play this game and send emails out to people saying, hey, can you donate us some money? I mean, I recently got a text message. Hold on. I actually want to read this text message out. This is going to be hilarious. It's going to be hilarious to me because I find it funny. I find it interesting. I find it pathetic in a way, but you wouldn't believe who I got a text message from. And it is the last person in the world that I would ever expect it from. But here. In 2016, my uncle ran and won on the most extreme far-right platform of any candidate in modern history. And now he's presumptive nominee of the GOP primary. That means we're frighteningly close to a second Trump presidency. So I need you to know where Democrats like you stand. Do you believe Donald Trump should be allowed to hold public office? From Mary Trump. Curse you, Bernie Sanders, for giving out our text messages, our phone numbers and emails out to the Democratic Party. Because the thing is, nothing is better under Democrats. Nothing is better under Republicans. Both parties are one and the same. Jay, I want to get your thoughts.
I'm wondering if I can actually share this article really quick.
Go ahead.
Because this is, you know, I really want people to know, like, even what the conservatives are saying, because ultimately, you gotta look at things from, you know, this angle. So let me share this. Can you guys see it?
Hang on. There you go.
Okay. This is from the Cato Institute, conservative think tank. Says in absolute terms, the Biden DHS is removing 3.5 times as many people per month as the Trump DHS did. These figures are important for understanding how each administration has carried out border enforcement. By that very notion, Joe Biden is actually deporting more people than Trump. So, when Republicans talk about, oh my God, we have open borders, the borders were actually more open under Trump. Interesting.
It is interesting.
And then on top of it, Biden is doing the same thing at the border that Trump did, which is the same thing at the border that what Obama did, keeping kids in cages, and then on top of that, keeping Title 42 in place.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I really want to harp on the most is that everybody talks about treating the symptoms, but they never talk about treating the underlying cause. Why do we still have the drug war going on that causes the destabilizing of the nations like Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, right? Why do we still have this drug war taking place, which keeps the cartels in place? Why are we continuing to keep these countries destabilized? And then it causes these immigrants to have to flee their countries. I'm going to let you in on you guys on a little secret. people who have it good in their country don't typically leave that often. So if you're keeping the country destabilized, then they're going to flee. And where are they going to go? They're going to go to our borders, right? And a lot of times they're going to go to our borders because they are in danger. So if you get rid of the danger, meaning what the United States is doing in those countries, then they're more likely to stay. And if they do come, then it will be through a more legal means, which they'll be willing to take the time to go through those means instead of having to come as refugees. And so when it comes to this whole issue of, oh, well, we just need to strengthen the border, blah, blah, blah. It's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, because you're causing these people to have to flee their country to subject themselves to danger in order to come here. And then by the time they get here, they are discriminated against, they're looked down upon, and then they are also used as pawns to go up against us. They're used as scabs when it comes to us as workers. They're used as a means to divide us, where they're given somehow a little bit more, because that happened in Chicago. They're given a little bit more, right, when it comes to housing and healthcare and food and things like that. And so then it makes us look at them with resentment because we're not treated that way. So there's the division between workers internationally. This is they are being used as pawns to keep all the workers divided. That's basically what it is. And so they don't want to actually fix the border issue from the actual apex of what's wrong, because they know that it serves their purpose. Because ultimately, who are the victims? The immigrants, both undocumented and documented, are victims. And we, the workers and the poor people, are victims too. And the ones who are walking out the back with all the money are the people who are the corporate people at the top.
You know, I have to wonder, the big question mark that's that needs to be opened up, ripped apart, and that is what's going to happen here in Chicago in August. Because that's going to be a big thing that's going to really impact this election cycle, and overall what kind of message the Democrats are going to have. Because in the first video, where it says Marie Antoinette moment, talking about, oh yeah, we're going to do something while he's eating ice cream, and the question of genocide being brought up, he's just there eating his ice cream, being nonchalant, not even caring about it. But voters see just how weak Biden is. Voters can see just truly how out of touch he is and how incompetent he is on the issues. And I really have to wonder if they're going to go all in keeping him, and if they are really going to pick somebody else at the convention in August. What are your thoughts? How do you see the DNC convention playing out? You think they're going to go all in with Biden? Because I was talking with Keen with due dissonance about, and I even brought this up on with CJ on RBN just a few days ago when he had me co-host on I believe Saturday. I don't see them keeping Biden.
No, I don't think they're going to keep Biden at all. I think that with Biden, they are going to at least push. So at the convention, they're going to push Biden to be the nominee. But then once he's the nominee, that's when the switcheroo happens. Because post-convention, then they don't have to deal with trying to make Biden the nominee. So now it's more of an appointment, right? And it's like, well, I'm too sick, I'm too old, so I'm going to hand it off to somebody who can actually do better. So I thought I was going to be able to do it by convention time, but oops, sorry, I'm going to have to switch it or hand it off.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they kept Kamala Harris on as vice president and then just switch out the president.
They would keep Kamala? Oh man, no. That's a kiss of death right there. But then again, I could see how people would be upset, saying, how dare you get rid of the first black woman as vice president? But then again, she's not popular with voters, even amongst Democrats. She doesn't bring in enthusiasm. She doesn't bring in any kind of encouragement. I mean, there is the K-Hive, but really, how big is K-Hive? I mean, even Hillary Clinton had more support than than what K-Hive can bring in, and that's pretty pathetic. Looking at just overall the lackluster political career of Kamala Harris. But we will see. We will see.
Yeah, it's all optics with the Democrats, though, right? Because they just need somebody that's going to be a cheerleader in the vice presidential position. So of course they're going to keep Kamala, right? Then all they got to do is just have somebody that's going to maintain the status quo. They just need a status quo manager, and Gavin Newsom fits the bill quite well. And so all they got to do is just replace one with the other. So that I think that's what the most likely outcome is going to be. Outside of that is Kamala Harris says that I'm not going to run a second term, and then they place somebody like Gavin Newsom as the vice presidential nominee. And then once you get outside, like post convention, then Joe Biden will be like, well, I'm not going to be the nominee anymore. I'm stepping down. Then that puts Gavin Newsom in the president position, and then he gets his pick for who they want to be vice president. I don't know. I'm shooting things out there, ideas that I think that the Democrats will do, but I just don't see Joe Biden making it to November 5th.
We shall see. But we have Marie Antoinette in real life. We have our own Marie Antoinette. While the world burns, while Americans suffer and face poverty and more economic hardship, while the whole world is at the precipice of entering into WW3, he eats ice cream and smiles and nods, but yet the whole world sees that we are being led by a senile old goat. It didn't have to be this way. It really didn't have to be this way.